Um, Hi. So, Barack Obama, 2008, $640 million. John McCain, 2008, $360 million. Barack Obama, 2012, $1.07 billion. Mitt Romney, 2012, $992.5 million. These are the amounts of campaign contributions given to candidates for the American presidency, according to the New York Times and CNN. Part of our right as American citizens is to cast our vote for president. But this can happen beyond just the ballot box. Financial contributions are a huge way that people can get their candidate elected, through ads, events, travel, etc. Today I'm here to discuss the fact that the current system of campaign finance is not protecting the voice of the American people. I will prove this by showing that there's an excess of large contributions from powerful individuals or corporations. The contribution limits should be returned to those before the Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission decision, and there should be increased public financing for elections. First, there is an excess of contributions for corporations and large individual contributions. So looking at the contributions given before, in 2008 and 2012, where did this money come from? Looking at the top donors for each campaign, Obama received $5 million from a man named James H. Simmons, president of a large hedge fund. On the Romney side, his biggest contributor was Sheldon Adelson, a billionaire casino owner. If a candidate is supposed to represent the voice of the American public, I would say that these aren't good representations. And how many of you or your parents could walk to the bank and give away $15 million? So how are these people representative of the public voice? Before the Federal Election Campaign Act, which originally was passed in 1971, there was a huge market of corrupt politicians. These corrupt politicians were backed by corporate machines that would get candidates elected so they would have control over the government during their term. Probably the best example of this was President Harding, who allowed the sale of a plot of federal land with military reserve oil stored on it to be sold to an oil mogul, and he then sold the oil for profit. There was also the perpetuating of prohibition in the 1920s due to drug companies supporting politicians. Next, I will talk about the Citizens United and McCutcheon versus FEC decisions and how they have only hindered progress. In the Citizens United case, limitations on corporations and committees were adjusted to mirror that of individuals. Because of this decision, under the law, corporations are now treated as people when it comes to campaign finance, and they are given the right to free speech through monetary contribution. In the McCutcheon versus FEC, the limits on aggregate contributions to campaigns were lifted. This means that any group can contribute unlimited funds to any campaign, any group of individuals. Both of these case rulings are allowing for increased campaign contribution by big business and the extremely wealthy, thus taking monetary vote casting power away from those at the bottom of the income scale and taking attention away from those issues that are plaguing the general populace. Lastly, there needs to be increased public financing available for elections of all kinds. Unless we want America to again be under the control of corporate machines, monetary influence needs to be controlled in majority by the people. The best way to do this is by getting everyone on an initial playing field through public financing. Currently, only 13 out of the 50 states provide public financing for their elections. The two types of public financing are matching funds programs and clean election programs. Matching fund programs allow candidates to raise funds from supporters, and the amount of money raised will be matched by public funds. Clean election campaigns must provide substantial proof of support in the amount of small donations and then is given public funds equal to the expenditure limit set forth by the state. Clean election programs are the way to go because they require proof before the state is required to contribute anything. So funds would be going to only serious competitors. This would also require candidates to listen to the people and gain votes before they start on their road. In conclusion, current campaign finance reform needs reform. There is an excess of large contributions for powerful individuals or corporations. The contribution limits should be returned to those before the Citizens United versus FEC decision. And there should be increased public financing for elections. Thank you.
All right, Monica, I like the opening with the different amounts that were spent by the candidates in the 2 previous presidential elections. I thought that was a good way to identify the topic. You've got a clear statement of what your proposition is, although 2 out of the 3 secondary points are claims of policy, and you can't use a claim of policy to support a claim of fact, so that's a little bit problematic. You need to tell us what the harmful consequences are of Citizen United and what what impact a public financing system would have. Those would be claims of fact, and I think that you didn't really do a very good job on those particular points. So it is nicely structured, and you've got a clear proposition. You do good signposting in the body of the speech for the most part. There is a lot of presupposition about corruption prior to 1971. You've got one example of Warren G. Harding. I think that's it's almost a 100-year-old example, so I think you probably need something that's a little bit more effective than that. And you don't have anything that tells me that there are consequences because of the limitations that exist in the current FEC rules. I mean, that what happened with Harding couldn't happen because of what law was passed in 1971, but you don't tell us what holes there are in those laws since 1971, except for the Citizens United argument and the other group argument also. You do tell us on that second point what the ruling was, but there's not any evidence that tells us that there's a harm that occurs there as a result. There's no explanation about why a group of citizens is less entitled to express themselves than citizens operating alone when they put their money into a campaign, and why a corporation, why is it harmful or dangerous for a corporation to be doing those kinds of things. The only inference that you have goes back to your introduction, where because some of the money came from these particular people, that there's a potential that they could have some influence. So, for instance, what did Mr. Simmons have? What has he gotten from Obama as a result of his $5 million contribution? What policy did Romney developed because he was supported by the casino owner? I don't have any idea about what kinds of corruption you were saying occurs with these candidates, and I think that it's pretty speculative at this particular point. Like I said, I think you need some more information on that. When you made the historical reference about prohibition, you said it was supported by dry companies, and I'm going, what the heck is a dry company? Who is it that what are you talking about? The iced tea companies didn't want they wanted to keep prohibition in place. I don't really know what your example is there, so that's, I think, a little bit problematic. And once again, that's 80 years ago, so I think you need something a little bit more contemporary. If 13 of 15 states have public financing, is it effective at eliminating the kinds of corruption that you're talking about? We should be able to see some data from those states that have this, that they have fewer indictments of politicians, there's less influence peddling, the laws are more reflective of what the citizens want, and I don't get any information like that. I just, it's a presupposition that it's going to work that way instead of something that's being demonstrated. All right, thank you.